$400 million. That is what the United States spent building a single weapon. Not an aircraft, not a ship, not a missile defense system, a bomb. One bomb, redesigned 4 times over 20 years, built for one target that did not exist when the program started. In 2004, 2 officers at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency began studying how to reach something buried deep under Iranian granite. Their assignment was classified. Their timeline was open-ended. For 15 years, those 2 people did nothing but solve one problem: how to crack a mountain without crossing the nuclear threshold. In 2020, Iran started digging. The weapon arrived first. The target arrived second. And right now, 100 American aerial refueling tankers are moving into Israeli air bases, telling anyone who reads tanker geometry exactly where the B-2 Spirit is headed. The mountain is called Ku-e-Kolang Gazla. The Americans call it Pickaxe Mountain. It rises 1,608 meters above sea level in the Zagros range, 1.5 kilometers south of the Natanz nuclear complex in Isfahan province. What the US is about to attempt against that mountain has never been done before. If you have served on a tanker crew, a bomber crew, or worked with penetrating munitions, tell us what detail everyone else will miss. Drop it in the comments. This is Eagle Eye Military. Subscribe so you see what comes next. Iran's engineers chose this location for a reason. They studied what happened at Fordow. They studied what happened at Natanz. They studied every strike the US and Israel conducted during the 12-day war in June 2025. And they drew one conclusion: the problem was depth. The Fordow enrichment plant sits inside a mountain roughly 80 meters below the surface. Fordow was supposed to be untouchable. Iran carved the facility out of hard rock, poured reinforced concrete over the access tunnels, and placed the entire site on a former Revolutionary Guard missile base surrounded by anti-aircraft batteries. In June 2025, 7 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers dropped 14 GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrators on Fordow during Operation Midnight Hammer. The facility sustained significant damage. The weapon the US spent 20 years building punched through the mountain's defenses in a single night. Iran's engineers looked at that result and asked one question: what if we go deeper? Pickaxe Mountain buries its chambers under up to 600 meters of granite. That is 7.5 times deeper than Fordow. The mountain itself is over 50% taller than the one above Fordow, creating a massive overburden of solid Zagros rock between the surface and whatever sits below. 600 meters is roughly the height of a 200-story building. Stacked solid granite, no gaps, no seams, just compressed igneous rock that has been there for millions of years. The compound covers 1 square kilometer of mountainside. Iran built a security fence several kilometers long connecting the site to the Natanz perimeter. 2 paved access roads climb toward 2 tunnel entrances. Construction started after a sabotage operation on July 2, 2020, destroyed a centrifuge production plant at the surface-level Natanz facility. The explosion was widely attributed to Israel. It gutted the building where Iran assembled its most advanced centrifuges, the IR-6 models that enrich uranium faster than any previous generation. Iran's response was not to rebuild above ground. It was to move underground permanently. Workers began blasting into the Zagros granite within months. Satellite imagery tracked the spoil piles growing on the mountainside. Trucks hauled crushed rock down the access roads around the clock. By February 2026, analysts at the Institute for Science and International Security confirmed that concrete was being poured over the western tunnel entrance and rock was being compacted over the eastern portal. The entrances were being hardened against the exact type of weapon that cracked Fordow open. Iran describes the facility as a replacement centrifuge assembly plant. The IAEA has never been granted access. No international inspector has set foot inside. When Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, listed the nuclear sites barred from inspection on state television, he named Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. He did not mention Pickaxe Mountain. The facility is not on the barred list because it was never on the inspection list to begin with. And here is the part that makes Iran's engineers look smart. The physics supports their decision. The GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator weighs 30,000 pounds. It stretches 20.5 feet long and 31.5 inches across. The casing is forged from Eglin steel alloy, a high-density metal designed to hold together during the violence of slamming into rock at terminal velocity. The warhead carries 5,300 pounds of AFX 757 and PBXN 114 polymer-bonded explosives. The explosive power exceeds the older BLU 109 bunker buster by a factor of 10. According to independent analysis from Jane's Defense, the GBU-57 penetrates approximately 18 meters of standard reinforced concrete. Through hard rock, the verified depth reaches roughly 40 meters. Pickaxe Mountain sits under 600 meters, 40 versus 600. Iran's math is correct. No kinetic weapon on Earth punches through 600 meters of Zagros granite. The mountain wins. So the US does not go through the mountain. The Fordow strike revealed the actual playbook. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, explained it in a Pentagon briefing after Operation Midnight Hammer. The entire attack revolved around ventilation shafts. Every underground facility needs to breathe. Centrifuges generate heat. Workers need oxygen. Diesel generators need exhaust paths. Chemical processes produce fumes that must vent to the surface. No matter how deep you bury a chamber, you connect it to the outside world with a shaft. At Fordow, that meant 2 ventilation shafts on opposite sides of the mountain. The DTRA officers who spent 15 years studying the facility identified those shafts as the critical weak point. The US dropped 12 GBU-57s across those 2 shafts, 6 bombs per shaft, delivered in rapid sequence by B-2 bombers flying from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Each B-2 carried 2 weapons. The bombers launched from the continental United States, flew across the Atlantic, refueled over the Mediterranean, struck their targets, and flew home. Total mission time, over 30 hours per aircraft. 2 pilots per cockpit. No landing, no rest, no second chance. The first bomb in each sequence targeted the concrete caps Iran had poured over the shaft openings in the days before the strike. Iranian engineers knew the shafts were vulnerable. They tried to seal them. Intelligence sources confirmed Iran moved to plug both shafts with reinforced concrete once the threat of attack became clear. Each cap weighed tons. Each one was destroyed by a single preliminary GBU-57 traveling at terminal velocity. The concrete disintegrated. The next 4 bombs in each sequence entered the open shafts, burrowing deeper with each drop. The explosions cascaded downward. The 6th bomb on each shaft served as a flex weapon, insurance against a malfunction in any of the first 5. Iran watched every second of that strike. Iran learned. Satellite imagery from the Institute for Science and International Security, analyzed as recently as July 9, 2026, shows that Pickaxe Mountain has only 1 known ventilation shaft. 1. Fordow had 2. The US split its weapons across both. At Pickaxe Mountain, every bomb funnels through a single point. 1 shaft means 1 attack vector. Iran can concentrate every defensive layer on that single opening. Concrete caps, steel plates, rubble fills, blast-resistant doors. Every countermeasure Iran developed after watching Fordow gets stacked on 1 point. The mountain is too deep to penetrate from above. The shaft is too well defended to reach from below. The engineering logic is sound. Iran's decision to go deeper and defend the one weakness was rational. Except the GBU-57 carries a technology that changes the calculation entirely. Inside the bomb's nose sits the large penetrator smart fuse. This fuse does not detonate on impact. It does not fire at a preset depth. It senses what the bomb passes through in real time. As 30,000 pounds of Eglin steel slam into rock at terminal velocity, accelerometers inside the fuse measure deceleration. Pressure sensors track density changes in the material surrounding the bomb body. The fuse reads the difference between granite, concrete, steel, and open air. When the bomb transitions from solid material into a void, an empty chamber, a tunnel, a hallway, the fuse detects the sudden drop in resistance. Then it fires. The bomb decides when to explode based on what it feels. This is not brute force. That 30,000-pound weapon carries roughly 800 megajoules of kinetic energy at impact. When that energy releases inside a confined underground space, the overpressure effect multiplies. The blast wave has nowhere to expand except through the tunnel network, collapsing walls, crushing equipment, and sealing passages that took 6 years to carve. The 2013 redesign of the GBU-57, funded by an $82 million congressional appropriation, adjusted the fuse specifically to survive impact with layers of granite and steel. The detonator was hardened against the shock of penetration. The guidance system was upgraded to resist Iranian electronic jamming. Testing at White Sands Missile Range in January 2015 confirmed the upgraded weapon defeated Fordow-class targets when dropped in sequence. And the fourth upgrade, Enhanced Threat Response 4, validated in 2017, pushed the capability further. The specifics remain classified. The result does not. The Air Force cleared the weapon for operational fielding against the hardest targets on the planet. A weapon that thinks underground. A bomb that waits to feel open air before it detonates. No human makes the decision. The fuse reads the geology in real time and fires when the physics tells it to fire. What part of this changes your understanding of bunker warfare? The fuse, the shaft strategy, or the tanker math we are about to cover? Tell us. None of this matters if the B-2 cannot reach the target carrying a full weapons load. A B-2 Spirit holds 167,000 pounds of fuel. That is over 20,000 gallons of JP-8 jet fuel stored inside the Flying Wing's internal tanks. Unrefueled range, 6,000 nautical miles. With one aerial refueling contact from a boom-equipped tanker, that extends to 10,000 nautical miles. The bomber carries 2 GBU-57s, one in each weapon bay. Combined, that is 60,000 pounds of ordnance. The B-2's maximum takeoff weight is 336,500 pounds. Every pound of bomb is a pound that cannot be fuel. A fully armed B-2 trades range for firepower. The Air Force has 20 B-2 aircraft. Only 20 were ever built. One crashed at Andersen Air Force Base in Guam in 2008. Each aircraft requires up to 120 hours of maintenance for every hour of flight. The hangars must be climate-controlled to protect the stealth coating. Operating cost runs over $130,000 per flight hour. A 30-hour mission to Iran and back costs roughly $4 million in fuel and maintenance for a single bomber before the weapons are counted. On July 19, 2026, 14 American refueling aircraft landed at Israeli air bases. 33 KC-46 Pegasus and KC-135 Stratotankers were already parked at Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. An Israeli Air Force source told the Walla news site that the U.S. military plans to position 100 refueling tankers total across Israeli installations, including Ovda Air Base and Raman Airport in the southern Negev. 100 tankers do not move for coastal strikes. F-16 fighters and Tomahawk cruise missiles handle Bandar Abbas. You position 100 tankers when you need B-2 bombers airborne for 30-plus hours carrying maximum ordnance instead of maximum fuel. The tankers carry the fuel, so the bombers carry the bombs. A KC-46 Pegasus holds 212,299 pounds of transferable fuel. Its boom offloads at 1,200 gallons per minute. Moving those tankers from Ben Gurion South to Ovda, and Ramon pushes the refueling orbit closer to central Iran. Closer orbit means less fuel burned reaching the tanker track. Less fuel burned reaching the track means more weight available for weapons on the inbound leg. Where tankers park is where the range circle expands. Natanz sits in central Iran, roughly 1,500 kilometers from southern Israel. That is 810 nautical miles. A B-2 burns fuel at approximately 4.2 gallons per mile. The round trip consumes over 12,000 gallons just on the transit legs before loiter time and combat maneuvering. With a KC-46 tanker orbiting over the eastern Mediterranean or northern Saudi Arabia, the B-2 refuels inbound, delivers its weapons, and refuels again outbound. The distance falls inside the B-2's refueled combat radius with a full weapons load if the tanker orbit positions correctly. President Trump stated on July 14th, "We are going to take out Pickaxe Mountain." Tell the Iranians to be ready. The tankers are the preparation that statement described. But one question hangs over the entire operation, and nobody in Washington has answered it publicly. How many GBU-57s does the US have left? In 2015, the stockpile stood at 20. Operation Midnight Hammer expended 14 across Fordow and Natanz. In February 2026, the Air Force began finalizing a $100 million sole source deal with Boeing to rebuild the inventory. Boeing is the only manufacturer. No other company on Earth produces the GBU-57. If the restocked bombs have arrived, the US has enough for a full-scale pickaxe strike comparable to what it did at Fordow. If they have not, the remaining count sits near 6. 6 bombs, 3 B-2 sorties, 1 ventilation shaft, 0 margin for malfunction. At Fordow, the US used 12 bombs on 2 shafts and still brought flex weapons. A 6-bomb strike on 1 shaft means every weapon must perform. No backups, no second pass if a fuse fails or a bomb drifts off the shaft opening by 5 feet in high winds. The most consequential bombing mission of the 21st century, attempted with the last available weapons, against a target deeper than anything the bomb has faced in combat. Iran buried its most critical facility under 600 meters of granite because the physics proves no bomb on Earth reaches it through the rock. The physics is correct. No bomb reaches it through the rock. It reaches it through the one hole Iran left open so the mountain could breathe. A 30,000-pound steel cylinder drops through the shaft. Accelerometers measure what it passes through. The fuse waits for granite to become air. Then 5,300 pounds of explosive detonates inside a sealed chamber. 600 meters below the surface of a mountain, Iran spent 6 years making invincible. The ventilation shaft Iran built to keep the facility alive becomes the pathway that ends it. Whether the Air Force has enough weapons left to finish that job is the question the next 72 hours will answer. If this is the engineering analysis you want before anyone else covers it, subscribe to Eagle Eye Military.